Good afternoon, Acting Mayor, members of council. The meeting post lunch recess is now being live streamed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And welcome back, members of the public and members of council. We call this meeting back to order, and we are at 12.4 under delegations. Our fourth delegation is Walter Herman from Hydro Pavers regarding response to January 27th, 2021 member motion regarding permeable pavement solutions. And is Mr. Herman with us online? Okay, I'm told that he's not signed in right now. I will move to the next delegation, and in the meantime, if he does come in, we'll hear that delegation next. I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna move forward to Patricia Jealous from Action First Aid regarding the member motion submitted by Regional and Local Councillor Pirelli with respect to outdoor safe station and automated external defibrillator installation at Lake Wilcox Park. So Ms. Jealous? Oh, there you are. Yeah, go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Okay, fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here to speak. My name is Patricia Jealous. I'm Partnerships Manager at Action First Aid, and my focus is on educating communities about the importance of 24/7 access to life-saving automated external defibrillators. I am here with Vice President of Action First Aid, Roger Hennig, as well, and we're here to tell you about a very important initiative today that we're hoping that you'll approve this motion. Next slide, please. There was a very generous gift that was made on behalf of a wonderful group of young ladies with the Central York Girls Region Hockey Association, and they have asked to donate a life-saving defibrillator and a 24/7 accessible, monitored, ventilated, and heated safe station cabinet to be placed at Lake Wilcox Park. And we're here today to tell you about why that is so important. And we're really hoping that everybody will agree that this is a wonderful initiative for the community and to approve this. Next slide, please. Before we tell you about the initiative, I wanted to step back a moment and tell you, if you aren't already aware, about sudden cardiac arrest and why public access to defibrillators is so crucially important and will save lives. When a sudden cardiac arrest strikes, that means that blood has been cut off to the brain because the heart has stopped beating, and the person who has collapsed and who's in cardiac arrest has only minutes if they have any chance of surviving. And so when that happens, we really need quick access within less than 4 minutes to an automated external defibrillator, because this is when brain damage starts to set in, and after 10 minutes, it's irreversible. Next slide, please. Some of the major barriers to improving the cardiac arrest survival rates is the fact that not enough people are confident to step in and help, and we do not have enough public access to defibrillators. Currently, based on the statistics that we know, every 11 minutes in Canada, somebody has a cardiac arrest outside of a hospital. And more than 40,000 people suffer a cardiac arrest every year, and the survival rate is less than 10%. So put another way, most people that have a cardiac arrest will not survive. And the way that we know is the chance of increasing this is providing them with quick access to a bystander who can jump in and follow the chain of survival, starting CPR, and using a defibrillator before paramedics get there. Next slide, please. So Safe Station is a way to provide 24/7 indoor-outdoor public access to defibrillators. And if you look at the slide, the unit that is a wall-mounted, heated, ventilated, and monitored cabinet, third from the left, is the generous gift that the girls of CYGHA have donated to Richmond Hill that they're hoping to be placed at Lake Wilcox Park. Next slide, please. Safe Station is very focused on increasing survival rates from sudden cardiac arrest. That is the ultimate mission and goal, and that is the goal of the entire resuscitation community. So we're joining in that mission, and we're providing access to AEDs indoors and out, awareness so people know that they're not for trained responders, they're for public to jump in and use if someone's having a cardiac arrest, and providing crucial education so that people understand when to use it, how to recognize a cardiac arrest, and when to step in and help so that we can save more lives. Next slide, please. This is the first safe station that was placed in Barrie, Ontario, and this was actually a commemorative placement. So many communities are starting commemorative programs. So instead of placing a bench or a tree, members of the community can place something very meaningful in memory of a loved one. This is exactly what was done here. Next slide, please. This is the first freestanding safe station installed at Barrie City Hall, and this was donated by a generous sponsor as well. So this was placed in the community and is now available 24/7. It lights up at night. Anybody that suffers a cardiac arrest, somebody who's around can jump in and help them. Next slide, please.
1 minute.
Keep going. Next slide. Next slide. We have national deployments across Canada and the US in some major cities. Next slide. This is one that's in Metrolinx in Toronto, and there is one as well in Ottawa. Next slide, please. This is the Central York Girls Hockey Association. These are a couple of the girls. There were placements already placed in Aurora and Town Park, in Newmarket and Riverwalk Commons, and the girls are really hoping that they can place one in Richmond Hill as well. They started a crowdfunding campaign. They raised money to place these AEDs all over their community in the hopes of making it cardiac safe. Next slide, please. This is a quick video. I'm not sure if we have time to play it, but it just explains the initiative. So if you are able to play it, that would be wonderful.
Well, your time is just elapsed. How long is the video?
It's just about 30 seconds. And it's just this wonderful young woman saved somebody's life doing CPR, and she's very passionate about this initiative. This is one of the members of the girls hockey team.
Okay, Ms. Jealous, I'm going to allow it as long as there's no objections from other counselors.
Thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead and play the video.
Make sure you put the volume on at the bottom right.
I do apologize, Mr. Through you, Acting Chair. The video link did not come through in the presentation in a way that we're able to play it at this juncture.
Oh, no problem. Then I will just say that Rachel Gillis is a young woman that saved a man's life doing CPR. She had just taken a CPR course, actually trained by Action First Aid, and none of the other players really jumped in to help, but she knew what to do. She called for a defibrillator. It was attached, and this man survived because of her, and she was there and available to do it within just a couple minutes. So it's just a testament to how important it is to have access to an AED very quickly. If there's just 2 more slides I'd like to get to and just wrap up, if that's okay. I request 1 more minute if that's okay with council.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, this is just a quick overview of the 3 placements that the girls were hoping to do with this She Shoots, She Saves initiative. One was already approved for Henderson Park in Bradford. The other was approved for Ken Sturgeon Park in Newmarket. And this is a picture of the placement in Lake Wilcox Park, where the girls would really love to see their defibrillator placed. So it's available to the residents of Richmond Hill. 1 more slide, please. Just in regards to servicing the AED, Action First Aid is here and available to work with the city and make sure we help track the AED, provide replacement pads and batteries when needed, and we're able to work with you to set up a really sophisticated monitoring program so that it's tracked by GPS. It has 2-way calling to 911, and it constantly monitors the AED. So if there's any concerns about outdoor placement in our winters and summers, this AED will always be monitored. So there's always going to be somebody who can see that to make sure that it's actually working and ready for rescue.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jealous. We appreciate your presentation. That's great. And I guess that young hockey player really made a great save.
Yeah, and I just like to close, if it's okay, by saying that I myself am actually a sudden cardiac arrest survivor. I had a cardiac arrest at age 30. I was a healthy young woman, and my colleagues saved my life because they did CPR and had quick access to an AED within less than 2 minutes. So I'm one of the lucky few that survived because I was in the right place at the right time. But the goal here is to make sure that you don't just survive if you're in the right place at the right time, that we have cardiac safe communities across our country and across North America so that everybody has that same chance of survival if this happens to them. Thank you very much for your consideration, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, this item is with respect to Regional and Local Councilors Pirelli's member motion. So go ahead, Councillor Pirelli.
Are there any other delegates at this time?
Roger is here with me and available to answer questions if anything comes up, but I was the one that was making the delegation.
There's only one registered delegate on this item.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my motion is really self-explanatory. I want to thank Ms. Gellis, Mr. Henning, and more importantly, I want to thank the Central York Girls Hockey Association. I mean, they could have given and generously donated this AED to any community they wanted. And I'm very honored that because of my very small part in their campaign, they chose Richmond Hill. I was happy to do it. I never expected them to make such a generous donation, but of course, on behalf of the residents of Richmond Hill, I'm happy to accept it. I understand that there has been some initial communication with staff on, where to put it and what it would cost to set up the infrastructure. All I know is that you can't put a price on a life. And I think whatever the cost is to set up the first one of many, I hope. Hopefully, once this one is installed and we see how wonderful it is, hopefully that never gets used. I mean, that would be the ideal situation. It's one of those things you like to have and hope you never use it. But if you need it and it's there, it's important that this gets installed. The girls picked the location. It wasn't the location that I picked. I think they liked Lake Wilcox Park for the reason that they like ice and they like hockey, and people do skate, I think, on Lake Wilcox and in the winter. And if something happens, they'd like to know that the AED is there. And it's for that reason I want to thank the Central York Girls Hockey Association for their generous gift, and I hope council will support this life-saving initiative, and then in the future consider more locations throughout Richmond Hill as finances permit, etc. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Chan. Did you want to speak, Councillor? Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't intending to speak, but I like the speaker, the mover before me, thanking the delegate, and specifically with the Central York Girls Hockey Association, and taking the time to share the life-saving story with us. And I think it's important that for the safety for everyone using our facilities. And I think that as Regional Council Perry said, hopefully we never have to use it. But it just so happens on my own street, like last night, there was an ambulance come in, and somebody probably need to have the paramedic service. So I do understand every second counts. So I'm happy to second, and I hope that this is only the beginning. We might have more of the devices across the city. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think this is a good thing for the city, and I'm happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Chan. Okay, so put the motion to a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Okay, well, thank you very much. We move to the next delegation. Did we end up tracking down Mr. Herman?
Yes, thank you to you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Mr. Herman is available to speak at this time.
Very good. Okay, so Walter Herman from Hydro Pavers on a member motion regarding permeable pavement solutions. Mr. Herman, if you're there, go ahead. You've got 5 minutes to address council. Mr. Herman? Doesn't appear to be responding, Mr. Clerk. Did you make contact with him during that last delegation?
He is, to you, Mr. Acting Mayor, Mr. Herman is logged into the meeting. We just need him to unmute his microphone, since that has to be done on his side.
Okay, so Mr. Herman, can you unmute your microphone? You are logged into the meeting. We cannot hear you. Mr. Herman, we can't hear you. You need to unmute your microphone.
Mr. Chair, perhaps I might suggest, if our next delegate is on, that we move on to that delegate, and we'll see if we can assist Mr. Herman while dealing with that matter.
We'll have to go to the next agenda item, because that's the last delegation I have on mine.
You're right. My apologies.
Mr. Ross already spoke to
yes,
council.
my apologies. Yes.
We can go back to Mr. Herman. If you make contact, let me know, but we'll carry on with the meeting. We'll go forward to committee and staff reports that were pulled. 13.1 and 2 have been dealt with. 13.3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, that was pulled by Councillor Munch. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Munch, go ahead on 13.1. You asked for this item to be separated.
Okay, so, hey, guys.
Councillor Munch, do you mind just waiting? It looks like Mr. Herman is on there. Mr. Herman, are you able to unmute?
Testing, 1, 2.
There we go. Okay, we can hear you loud and clear. You have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Okay.
All right, Councillor Munch, we'll get right back to you.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Walter Herman from Hydro Pavers. We're a Canadian company specializing in stormwater management and landscape pavers throughout North America and beyond. And this is in particular to a couple of comments here on the, excuse me, let me mute that. Some comments here regarding our product and the use in municipalities and such. So I'm not sure if my email to Karen was circulated as part of your files there, was it? Hello?
Mr. Clerk, did we get an item of correspondence attached to the agenda today?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have correspondence related to this agenda item. I would just need a moment to see if this one was included.
Okay, fair enough. More so as an introduction, there were a couple of concerns in the report regarding porous paving. And one of the things I wanted to point out as our company has an extremely unique porous paving system. It's actually pervious. And what's important is to identify us separately from the diligence that was done. And we were never reached out to explain our system, which is fine. But the research from what our system accomplishes was not included in the report. Today, there exists what they call permeable pavers, and generally we refer to them as fake permeable. There's concrete pavers in the marketplace that address stormwater in a sort of a funny pseudo way, where they put space between pavers and then the water goes between the pavers. And that brings to mind some of the things that your report addresses: ADA safety. There's gaps between pavers, high heels being caught, wheelchair not ADA friendly or AODA friendly as our system would be. One of the reasons our system is not front and center is because of the technology. We're doing everything directly. So we work with engineers and architects and builders throughout North America, and particularly cities. And having said that, we've done many lunch and learns with cities and identified solutions for their stormwater issues and their ADA issues. And hence, we've been included in projects from Florida, from the islands to Boston, to sidewalks in Vancouver, Toronto, various places in Montreal, California. And once people see our product, we actually end up creating that solution with them from an engineering viewpoint, and we mitigate stormwater. So having said that, in a nutshell, ours is actually the only product on the market in the world that's a truly 100% pervious system. It's not a concrete product, so the CO2 emissions in that from manufacturing are extremely low if climate change or those type of things are important. But having said that, it's a baked ceramic recycled tile product that works extremely well. Load bearing from walkways to sidewalks to parking lots and such, integrated in to a system designed to exceed the 100-year storm water requirements in most of North America, particularly in the north. So, which is 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, or 4 inches of a rain event is defined as our 100-year storm in this particular area. And there's times, of course, where we've had more than one of these events on an annual basis. Our system is designed actually to hold 5 inches of rain without the gaps between the pavers, making it safe for handicap areas and such. And so I was hoping just to bring this to your attention. There's so many different attributes for our product. And as I mentioned, we're working with the City of Toronto. We've done a number of parks. There's parking lots. There's sidewalk with Waterfront Toronto. Vancouver's incorporated us for sidewalks. And getting back to the main reason, it's all about water, stormwater. And this is an area that we've focused on in the last 20 years with our patented green roof technology. So keeping the water on the property is really key. And we see that back to throughout North America, it's an important issue because the sewers and the waterways and all these pipelines are exceeding the capacity. And all of that needs to be.
So that's time's up, Mr. Herman. Do you want to wrap up? Did you want to take just a quick
that was quick.
sentence or two? That's 5 minutes there.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time. Please take a look at our website, reach out to me for information, and I invite you to do a pilot project. We definitely work very closely with FCM. And in terms of cost, there is grant money available from Ottawa. It's the only landscape paver that allows that grant money. And we'd love to work with you and break ground in Richmond Hill. I'm close by in Pickering, so I'm available for any meetings or even lunch and learns when that's allowable again. Thank you for your time.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Herman. And I can confirm that we do have your item of correspondence that was circulated to members of council and will form part of the public record. So, Councillor Munch, do you want to speak to this issue? No, just the.
Good day. Thank you, everyone. We brought this back in January, and the reason why this is a really particular issue to me, and likely to others around Ward 2, is on January 9th and 10th, 2020, we had a rain event. And in that rain event, we had over 75 homes in Richmond Hill who were affected by water backup and stormwater backup. So all older neighborhoods before 1966 likely do not have storm or black flow valves. And the reason we had a problem is that our system couldn't handle it. And we are unique in York Region because Richmond Hill does not have direct access to Lake Ontario. So we transport all of our stormwater through sewers. And as we are growing and as we have more concrete services, we have a real challenge. And as driveways are being widened, we are adding more stormwater into our system, and we are having unfunded liability with regards to how we're moving this with all the older neighborhoods who have older sewers, more than 40 and 50 years, are in trouble. So what I'd ask, I have a motion, which I'm going to ask the clerk to read. Again, it's typical Tom Munch, but I ask members of council who I emailed it to you. It takes a lot of work to put things together. And when you see municipalities like Sarnia, Toronto, Mississauga, Calgary, Bradford in the United States, Miami, go universally down this road and are doing installations. We have places like the Royal Botanical Gardens. We have installations in Richmond Hill at the Copic Church. The market is already there. We as a municipality, if we believe in looking after climate change, and we want to look after mitigating the water and sewer, and we want to look at the heat island effect, and we want to make sure the planet is cool, this is a really great opportunity, which is why many municipalities who are concerned about climate change and are concerned about stormwater management say, hey, instead of putting water into our sewer system, transferring 38 kilometers to Lake Ontario, why don't we have a product like grass that absorbs the product and manages the product without going into other areas? And instead of creating stormwater ponds, which are holding areas for mosquitoes and animals like coyotes that are unsafe to our population, this is a great opportunity for us to manage it on site, to have permeable product that is managed. We don't have to be at the forefront, but we certainly should be in the game as a municipality. And seeing we are talking about the environment and we have staff and the environmental policies, I'm a little surprised, as is many in the industry, are saying, why are we promoting concrete and asphalt when we have a much better solution for stormwater management and a much more progressive way with a longer life cycle? CBC 2 weeks ago just gave, I gave that in link in my motion. So I'm going to ask the clerk now if you could please read the motion. I ask members of council, please, the environment matters and our stormwater matters and our residents are being impacted by climate change. And we need to be progressive on environmental policies. And we don't have, when I hear things like, oh, wow, the industry is ahead of GHG, we are not moving forwards as a municipality with tangible planning criteria to encourage people to use environmentally friendly products that the industry wants to use. So why aren't we doing this? I've given a pretty lengthy example, and I ask any member of council to ask any part of my deductive arguments that where is it that we're not moving forwards? Why aren't we leading or at least being participation in climate efforts and stormwater management issues when our residents are being impacted with higher insurance rates? We have a huge underfunded liability with stormwater ponds. We have safety issues with people getting hurt. Going through ice, we had one person severely injured, I think even died last winter. If we have another situation this winter, I'd hate to see it happen. And we've known this for over 2 years. So I think it's great that was brought to my attention. So I asked the clerk if he could please read the motion, and then I'll answer any questions, and I look forward to it. I ask council to please consider climate change and our environment as a very important aspect of what we do. And this is one of the aspects we could do inside our house. So go ahead, clerk, please read the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, we've got a very aggressive climate change plan here in Richmond Hill, but the clerk is going to read now your motion to add to our environmental initiatives.
Thank you. Whereas Richmond Hill, along with all of York Region, does not have direct access to a water distribution source, which unfortunately requires our stormwater to be managed by transporting via sewers to Lake Ontario, which is a safety concern, a very expensive process for maintenance and replacement, that is an unfunded liability to the city. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems can be made using recycled materials, which puts less pressure on the environment to produce materials to build pavements and driveways. There are new techniques that allow manufacturers to use the byproducts, such as slag cement from iron manufacturers, to make concrete that can be used as a component of the green pavement. This helps in reducing landfill space as well. Whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems is a pavement type with a porous surface that is composed of concrete, open pore pavers, or asphalt with an underlying stone reservoir. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems can allow water to run through it rather than accumulate on it or run off of it. And whereas permeable pavers and its qualified related systems act as a natural filter and clears the waters of pollutants, which is environmentally friendly. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems is commonly used in parking lots, sidewalks, low traffic areas, and driveways throughout North America, Canada, and has installations in Richmond Hill, the eco-friendly pavement is suitable for different conditions, including hot climates, high-speed traffic areas, and less travel areas. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems will assist in reducing complex, costly and maintenance water systems such as holding ponds and expensive water holding tanks. And whereas reducing holding ponds addresses residents' safety because wildlife such as coyotes use these ponds for drinking and bathing. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems will assist in reducing complex, costly, and maintenance-oriented water systems, such as holding ponds and expensive water holding tanks, which will assist to improve neighborhoods by better land utilization, thus following good planning principles. And whereas permeable pavement and its systems exceeds the Ontario 100-year storm requirements for retention and drainage. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems help in managing stormwater efficiently by reestablishing a natural hydrologic balance and reducing the volume of runoff. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems releases the precipitation slowly in the ground rather than letting it flow into storm drains. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems help improve the longevity of surfaces, which reduces greenhouse gases, GHG, and carbon footprint emissions, which assists in the achievement of the 2051 net zero guidelines. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems can help reduce the concentration of pollutants in the stormwater in three ways: physically, by trapping them in the pavement; chemically, the bacteria and other microbes break down and use the pollutants; and biologically, plants growing in between the pavers help in trapping and storing the pollutants. And whereas permeable pavement and its qualified related systems allows water and air to access to roots of vegetation. And whereas Ontario Regulation 299-19 regarding additional residential unit dwellings and the effects of Bill 108, which became law in 2019, as presented to Richmond Hill Council on December 2nd, 2020, require municipalities to update their official plans and zoning bylaws to permit additional residential units within houses that are single detached, semi-detached townhouses, and also within accessory structures, which inevitably creates a need for wider driveways, additional parking spaces, and tandem parking, which in turn will put increased stormwater burdens on our stormwater infrastructure that does not have the capacity to take this burden on unchecked. And whereas climate change is affecting weather patterns, increasing the frequency and force of rain and flooding, leading to damaging and costly insurance and property damage. And whereas the City of Richmond Hill is putting forth as part of its future official plan policies and plans to reduce GHG emissions reduction targets as outlined in December 9th, 2020 report 13.6 SRPI 20.030. And whereas the City of Richmond Hill Council passed a motion on June 6, 2019, joining citizens and jurisdictions across Canada and the world by declaring a climate emergency in recognition of the urgent need for climate action and as a commitment to protect our community and the current and future generations who call Richmond Hill home. And whereas the rapid growth of urbanization and densification in our city have led the landscape to become less permeable due to coverage of buildings and paved surfaces. And whereas the CBC Ottawa on Friday, October 1st, 2021, 12 days ago, wrote about how businesses and the public are looking for environmentally responsible products that are durable, responsible, and competitive, which illustrates that the market is aware and is showing leadership on stormwater management that Richmond Hill should be part of. And whereas Ontario companies are world leaders, suppliers in permeable paving and related systems.
1 minute.
And whereas many municipalities, Miami, Los Angeles, Calgary, across Ontario, including Mississauga, Toronto, Ottawa, and many others such as Sarnia of late, chemical capital of Ontario, are mandating permeable pavers aggressively and related systems. And whereas Richmond Hill is a benefactor of the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan, or MCP legislation in 2001, 20 years ago, protecting 607 hectares of our residents cherish, that our residents cherish and want our environment protected vigorously. And whereas the city of Richmond Hill is hosting a virtual community consultation workshop on our environmental strategy update, therefore be it resolved that the Commissioner of Planning and Infrastructure be directed to make all efforts to assist in achieving the spirit and intent of the following, and initiate any and all amendment processes where necessary to amend Richmond Hill bylaws, including 84-03, if necessary, to include permeable paver amendments as required be defined as a product and qualified related system that is permeable and allows liquids or gases to go through it at a rate above the requirement of the 100-year storm criteria. Permeable surfaces, also known as porous or pervious surfaces, allow water to percolate into the soil to filter out pollutants and recharge the water table. In contrast, impermeable/impervious surfaces are solid surfaces that don't allow water to penetrate, forcing it to run off, whereby the 100-year storm is defined as rainfall event that has 98 millimeters within a 24-hour period. And the permeable product or system is able to absorb 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And the permeable product or system is able to absorb 4 millimeters of rain per square foot. And the permeable paver product or system can manage a minimum of 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period from all side surfaces through infiltration, evapotranspiration, water harvesting, and reuse. There is further reference and attached in links to various URLs. 2, to require all permits for residential driveways to utilize permeable pavement and its related systems to be utilized to receive a driveway expansion starting in January 1st, 2022, to give a substantial consideration for pathways to use permeable pavement and its related systems to be utilized, to give consideration, land coverage, and compensation to applicants and applications of parking lot uses to utilize permeable pavement and its related systems to reduce holding ponds and water runoff usage. And 5, to keep council up to date on all permeable pavement products or system advancements on at least a semi-annual basis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. And having you read that, we can really appreciate the gravity of the situation and the thought that's gone into the motion and the need that exists in Richmond Hill. So we've got a motion on the floor. And is there someone going to second the motion by Councillor Munch? Be happy to do so myself. I mean, it's I think definitely a direction we want to go. Sorry. Councillor Chen, can I ask you to take the chair again?
I'll be happy to, in the capacity of what we have in front of us, to act as.
I've never seen this kind of behavior in a regular, in my 16 years of being on council. where the acting mayor believes he's going to step in for the majority of council to get business going. This is quite the day to be seen. Perhaps you should just pass the acting chair over to Mr. Chan, as you seem to want to control most of the meeting.
Councillor Chan, I don't know if you should handle that or me, but I appreciate you taking the chair for just this one item.
I'm
you.
just responding to your request, Acting Mayor DiPaolo. It's your wish.
Thanks. So I'd like to speak.
So if you are saying that for me to assume the chair, I'll be happy to do so. Deputy Mayor DiPaolo, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chan. Thank you for stepping in as I did many times in the first three years of this term of council. When the mayor wanted to participate, I think it's necessary again in this case. Councillor Munch has done a lot of work, and in this case, really followed the process and the protocol in first bringing this issue forward. Our staff has done a wonderful job with their report. They've analyzed this from every different angle and have suggested all the ways in which our municipality can benefit from this product and service. And I just definitely want this to be on the floor. I implore councillors to support it in the form that it comes forward from Councillor Munch. And it's something that we can definitely lead and benefit from. So thank you, Councillor Chan, for the opportunity to second the motion.
Thank you. So now we have the motion tabled by Councillor Munch, seconded by Deputy Mayor DiPaolo. Any member of council would like to speak on the first round? And I'm seeing the hands of Councillor Barrows. Councillor Barrows.
So this is item 13.1.
No, that's not item 13.1. Yes, thank you, Councillor Munch. 13.4. That's what it was being mentioned. 13.1 is about community building fund and disaster mitigation and adaptation fund grant applications.
That Councillor Munch pulled for later.
No, Councillor Munch pulled 13.1, but we are not at that agenda item. Thank you, Councillor Munch, for helping.
So you agree with me when I said Councillor Munch pulled it for later? Good. Okay. So we all received a memo from staff on this particular product and service, and I'm just I guess the question goes back to the mover of the motion and the seconder of the motion, to which I'm quite surprised that we're telling staff that we as council members know better about the technology, and we are allowing an outside company to reframe the work, to reframe the wording of our bylaws to give someone a competitive advantage. Is that really what this motion comes down to?
Councillor Barrows, are you directing the question to the mover, Councillor Munch? I think that's what you are, right? Councillor Munch.
So just thank you for the question. There are several companies in Ontario, one manufacturer in Listowel, Ontario, that has a factory who has actually done product and installations in Richmond Hill. That is one particular company. There's another company who a delegate came forward from Pickering, Ontario, who gave a delegation now. This is not a proprietary product. This is a system to say, do we want to have stormwater management, and do we want to work with a permeable product as a consideration going forward? We don't have anything, and as the bylaw states, this was done in 1984. Certainly climate change in the last 36 years, 37 years, there's been a lot more focus and a lot more advancement. And as the delegate has stated, and other correspondents from other manufacturers and have come forward, and as we brought this notification to council. So the notion that this is one company, for those members of council and for the public, because it's a part of the public record, I find it I find it hard to believe that anybody would think that a member of council, when they have an interest for public life to advance things such as the environment and environmental causes, would have and don't declare pecuniary interest. I find that a little bit over the top. I think all of us, or I'm not going to speak for all, certainly I want to see great public policy and I want to see advancement. We have a net zero target of 2051. So this is not about one company. This is about a bylaw that was done in 1984, which there's no notion with regard to permeable paver or systems as outlined. Other municipalities have done this. It's climate change is a very common thing to talk about in the last number of years. I would hope that council would take a focus on climate change and environment. And this is a great opportunity for our municipality to evolve ourselves down the path, not take the leadership role because other municipalities have already done it. We're just trying to get in the game. Right now, we don't have anything in our bylaw with regards to this. We're just saying, or at least I'm saying in this motion, can we please, if people are going to add water and we have to manage water, that there's a cost to that. And for us to keep adding water to a already expanding or near capacity water system, this is an opportunity for us to put a really good opportunity where stormwater management is a very important issue. It's important for me. I hope it's important for some of you. So I thank you for the question. There's nothing there, I'm afraid. This is a general nature on how we evolve our environmental policies on stormwater management. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Munch, in responding to Councillor Barrow's question. Councillor Barrows, you still have the floor.
Thank you so much. And I'll direct my next question to the seconder of the motion, Mr. DePaola, Deputy Mayor. How is it that you feel educated more so than our staff to actually make these assertions, to create such a motion with such detail, to move it as a bylaw for staff to now work forward in the industry? You, sir, are saying by seconding this motion, I know better than staff, and staff does not have the answers. Tell us why.
So through the chair, Deputy Mayor DePaul.
Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. I was complimentary to our staff's report. I think our staff's report was extensive and it covers a lot of the subject matter, and that the motion and our staff can working in conjunction and go forward in a way that's beneficial to Richmond Hill. I always trust that our staff will be a buffer between any implementation or direction from council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor DePaula and Councillor Barrows.
Through the chair to the city manager, Madam City Manager, do you approve of this motion in its entirety and have staff read it and agree wholeheartedly? Could we in fact have taken the motion from Councillor Munch and just put it on a city staff report and have you sign off as the city manager as it's written?
Madam City Manager.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. I'm not sure I can answer that question. I don't have the motion up on the screen in front of me. I have not read the motion previously to that extent to answer that question. I'm not an expert. I believe if at all possible, it would be the Commissioner of Planning and Infrastructure who this question should be directed at, if it is at all possible to answer.
Commissioner Kwan, are you in a position to answer that as suggested by the city manager? If not, then I guess I go back to Councillor Barrows, who still has the floor.
Without the clock changing, who is my next staff member if the Commissioner of Planning is not available to answer the question?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. I'm not sure there is a staff member that's able to answer that question without more information. Staff provided the report as staff was directed to do, and it is up to council how they want us to proceed moving forward.
Thank you, City Manager. I think City Manager indicated that she does not have a chance to have the opportunity to read about this motion before today's meeting. Councillor Barrows.
Through the chair to the Deputy Mayor. Having just learned that city staff have not read this in detail and don't know the actual ramifications of what you're putting in front of them and making them do, are you still going to stay as a seconder to this motion and say that you know better than staff?
Through the chair, I take it. Deputy Mayor DePaula?
Through the chair, thank you. I didn't get a definitive answer from staff that they have any problems with the motion. Question was posed. I don't know why you're continuing with this line of questioning. The motion's been moved and seconded, and if you want to speak against it, you're welcome to.
So you're not in a position to actually speak to the motion that you've seconded. Is that what you're saying?
Why would you put words in my mouth like that?
Well, because I've been asking you questions that you haven't been answering.
Mr. Chair, I'm not going to answer any of these types of questions.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor DePaula. Councilor Barrows, I think that, in my opinion, that the Deputy Mayor did answer the question you posed to him. Whether in fact you find it satisfactory or not is a different issue.
Could you explain?
You have another question?
Yes. Could you explain to me then what his answer was?
The question was posed to Deputy Mayor DePaula. I'm not the one who being asked the question. If you're not satisfied,
you said it was answered. You said it was answered, so you clearly understood the answer. Please explain it to me and others to help us understand his answer.
Councilor Barrows, with all due respect, I think the last thing we want is to have another member of council, whether it's in the capacity of a chair or otherwise, to try to interpret another fellow member's response or remarks. If you want to ask questions to Deputy Mayor DePaula again to seek clarification you're not sure of, please do so within the remaining time. How much time, Mr. Clerk, that Councilor Barrows still have on the clock?
3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, so Councilor Barrows, if you do not believe you got the answer you would like or hear clearly from the Deputy Mayor DePaula, who is the second of this motion, please direct your questions again. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to Commissioner Kwan, we have a motion in front of us. Would you agree this is staff's position going forward?
Commissioner Kwan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I apologize if I missed the earlier question. My internet just went down temporarily. In answer to Councillor Barrows's question, similar to the city manager, staff have just seen this now for the very first time. I'll try to answer the question this way. I think our staff report was quite thorough in outlining the role that permeable pavers play in our overall stormwater management systems for the city. They are a part of our inventory or pick list of stormwater management strategies going forward, and we rely on the engineering submissions from each developer and builder as they come forward in order to ascertain the impact or value that added that the paver system would have. Certainly, there's always improvements in technology to go forward, but pavers, as outlined in the report, are but one of the technical solutions. The report also indicates on page 5 the other variables which go into how pavers would be used or the other physical considerations in installing pavers, such as the ground conditions, the water table, the stormwater event that takes place. So there's a number of things that would be contributing to the use of pavers or the value of pavers on any one project. And over time, the staff can monitor the overall performance of pavers and the new paving technology and other stormwater techniques, which would help to assist us in evaluating our overall stormwater standards as we go forward into the future. The one point I would make regarding the motion going forward after a quick read, it seems to require, should council wish to move forward, to impose this as a standard for all residential development. And I think that's something that we would simply like to see an industry consultation about, because we are changing our standards, and we typically consult with the industry so that they understand where the city is going in terms of all of our performance criteria. and standards on an engineering basis.
Thank you for your response, Commissioner Kwan. Councilor Barrows.
Through the chair to Mr. Massaro, engineer. Mr. Massaro, do you agree with all of the wording in this motion from an engineering and technical standpoint?
Through the chair and Executive Director, Massaro.
Thank you. Through the chair. Through the chair to Councilor Barrows. Sorry about that. Having, like Commissioner Kwan, just had a cursory review of the motion, having just read it and received it. I share the same sentiments regarding the driveways, that if we were to impose and mandate a significant change to what would be driveways on private and public property, as you know, most of all the driveways, there's a portion of which resides on the public right-of-way, that some consultation would be required with the development industry as part of new development applications. That would be appropriate. However, when you look at the balance of what I see are items, I believe 3 to 5 would make some appropriate sense moving forward, because they ask us to give consideration to the things that we would look into moving on a forward basis, so it doesn't tie our hands.
Thank you for your response. Councilor Barrows.
Through the chair to Mr. Dexter. Mr. Dexter, there's speak of a credit system in here. What kind of financial ramifications would the organization see based on moving this motion today?
Mr.
Point of
Dexter.
order. What point of order?
Point of order. Yes. What is
Sorry,
the
the
point
motion, the motion does not talk about a credit system.
I have to agree with the Councilor Munch. It is mentioned in the report, but it's not in the motion as we just heard from the clerk. So Councilor Barrows, would you like to focus on questioning about the contents arising from this motion in front of us?
Through the chair to the city solicitor. Moving this motion without any kind of consultation with the development or residential industry groups, do you feel that there could be any potential liability on the city for such a move without this?
Now, thank you for the question, Councilor Barrows. Before our solicitor will step in, I would like to first get a hearing from our city manager, who supervises or manages all staff in the city. And with the city manager, you think you're in a position to answer that before it's really up to the city solicitor to respond to this? City manager, what would be your take of this?
Mr. Chair, I believe it would be the city solicitor that should answer this question.
Okay, fair enough. So city solicitor, to the extent that it's any potential of concern from your end, please answer the question. If there's any concern, please let council know.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at, again, I've only reviewing it now, and just my cursory review of it is looking at the operative sections of the motion. It would be, I guess, paragraph 2, which is the requirement that all permits for residential driveways to utilize permeable pavers, that may be, could potentially be subject of a judicial review, because we're attempting to compel a specific material for future applications, whether it be a curb cut application, and whether that would be form part of that. So again, as I've said before, anybody can judicial review any component. So the theoretical would be that may be subject to judicial review if any future applicant feels that they've been aggrieved by that requirement. And that may be subject to the scrutiny of the court in terms of whether there was procedural fairness in terms of implementing that requirement going forward. So that's theoretical.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Point of order. Point of order.
Sorry. Yes, Deputy Mayor DiPaolo, your point of order is?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. In order to, I don't know how long this line of questioning is going to go. I just point to the part of the motion that says that staff make all efforts to assist in achieving the spirit and intent of the following. they're never going to be compelled to contravene laws or engineering principles or any other things that our staff is capable of in their professional capacity of understanding this as a direction and spirit that they do that they fulfill their professional obligations in walking this out.
So Deputy Mayor, I hear what you're saying, but
What was the
are you
procedural
suggesting,
issue there?
Are
Are you
Council
serious,
Barrows
Deputy
order?
Mayor? You think that
Council
was
Barrows, let me
a
deal with Councilor
procedural?
Barrows, let me deal
That's
with
why
it. I'm the chair.
people say it's dysfunctional.
Councilor Barrows, if
Yes,
you
sir.
allow me as the chair of this council meeting to react to the Deputy Mayor's DePaulo's point of order. Thank you.
Please, I'm very curious.
Yes. Deputy Mayor DePaulo, you raise a point of order. If I understand it correctly, you are concerned about the line of questioning of Councilor Barrows might not relating to the content of motion. However, that Councilor Barrows, in my view, is try to get a better understanding before he and any one of us on council can vote on it. So I don't consider he's out of order, but of course, Councilor Barrows can only have the remaining time to say his remarks and ask the appropriate question that is relevant to the content of this motion. But thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your view.
I apologize for the interruption. There's nothing worse than
How many
interrupting.
strikes is that for the Deputy Mayor now? It seems to me that's at least strike 2 for him. You've had to reprimand him a few times today.
Councilor Barrows, Deputy Mayor already mentioned about he did not meant to interrupt, and I already said what I said. You still have time. Are you going to
interrupt? It
continue
wasn't
use the
a
time you
mistake.
have
He did it
for
on
productive
purpose.
meeting? For
It wasn't a
productive
slip
meeting-
up.
For a productive meeting, please focus on remarks or questions you have on the content of the motion, please.
Through the chair to the clerk's office, to the city clerk. When did you receive the motion from Councillor Munch that we received by email?
Through the chair to Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I don't have the exact time in front of me, but it was, I would say 10 minutes, approximately 10 minutes or 15 minutes before we resumed following the lunch recess.
Thank
And
you.
if you,
Yes,
through the
Councilor
chair-
Barrows.
through the chair to the clerk, could you explain to us how you disseminated that motion to the public for their ability to look at it? And could you explain what type of system we're going to be setting up now for people to delegate this afternoon to this new motion that Councillor Munch has put on the floor?
Through the chair, I take it to Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, in keeping with
Point
council's.
of order, point of order.
Yes, Councilor Munch, what's your point of order?
In January, some 9 months ago, we moved a motion at council that was referred back to staff. This motion in front of us is a smaller excerpt of what was given to that over 8 months ago. So this is a fraction of what was already provided to the public 8 months ago. And we've received correspondence and we've had delegations to that effect. So this, in fact, has been around. It's just been modified to a much smaller degree to give flexibility. So this is not, if staff haven't seen this, then that concerns me. So I want to be careful because we've had this for 8 months with staff and we already have the manufacturers saying that they weren't consulted. I'm not sure why that is, but that has nothing to do with where we're at. I'd ask us to stay focused on the motion and where we've gone. Thank you.
Thank you for your point of order, Councilor Munch. I hear what you're saying. Yes, you did table a motion back in January this year. However, my interpretation of Councilor Barrows' question is to the clerk about the current motion in front of us. So I will allow the Mr. Clerk to answer that question, but I acknowledge what you're bringing up, Councilor Munch. So, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Barros. In accordance with Councillor's procedure bylaw and our practice, the motion which has been made in respect to an agenda item has been read out, or in some cases we do display them on the screen, but it certainly has been read out during the live stream. The second part of the question, if I recall correctly, was related to delegations. The only comment I can make on there is that the procedure bylaw is quite specific and says that there is no public participation after a motion is moved and second.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Now, Councilor Barros, I think that you still have time unless the clerk told me otherwise. So, Mr. Clerk, I believe
there's more.
You have time for him, right? Correct?
Yeah, that is correct, Mr. Chair. There's still 1 minute and 53 seconds available on the clock.
Councilor Barros, so please take good use of your 1 minute and 53 seconds. Councilor Barros.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor, what changes are we seeing from the original motion to this new motion? Do you have a redlining of what changes were made?
You're directing, sorry, Councilor Barros, I'm surprised a little bit because I would have thought you would direct this question to the mover. You still want to have the seconder to answer the question? I know that the mover, Councilor Munch, want to speak. Would that be all right if I would ask the mover the motion, Councilor Munch, to respond to your question?
I didn't ask Councilor Munch. I asked Deputy Mayor DePaula because he seems to be so interested in this motion that he stepped aside from chairing the meeting because he knows intimately the details of this. So please don't try to redirect my questions.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, but I also recognizing Councilor Munch want to speak to it and as a mover motion. So Deputy Mayor.
Perhaps in the second round, I'll ask Councilor Munch. For now, I've asked Deputy Mayor DePaula if he would please answer the question.
Fair enough. I already direct this question to Deputy Mayor DePaula. Deputy Mayor DePaula, please.
To you, Mr. Chair, Deputy Mayor DePaula has stepped away from his chair at the moment and is not here to answer the question.
Okay, so that's not what I expected, but given the circumstances, what other remarks or questions do you have, Councilor Barros? And you can always come back to the second round, as you said.
Through the chair to Councilor Munch, explain to us again when you talk about good governance and rule of law and all this nice fancy stuff, but then you throw in a motion last second without the public's consultation on it. How is it that you expect this to be? How do you expect you to be seen as someone who says, nope, I'm upholding those principles? And you've heard from multiple staff, from multiple departments. They haven't seen this and they've got caution.
So thank you for that.
The question to Councilor Munch. Councilor Munch, please.
Thank you for that. So I moved motion in January 2021, which is over 8 months ago. It was referred back to staff in the December 2019, 10 months ago. I circulated in writing to all the residents in my ward. I would have hoped that members of council who referred this back to staff would have engaged as well. On January 2020, some 21 months ago, roughly, we had a massive stormwater event of which we received correspondence and concerns, and we've had delegations since then. Furthermore, what I have done is I have engaged in every consultation I've had with my residents, and what I've done is I've engaged with stakeholders like suppliers across North America and Europe to try to give me their input. I have gone to 2 conferences of which talk about stormwater management and engaged other municipalities who were at that hearing to try to engage input as it relates both from a technical side, engineering side, as well as from an adherence side and where the public were at. So what I did is I made it public, I engaged, I offered it to council, referred back to staff, I engaged suppliers. I would say to you that that's not inconsistent with what most, I assume you do with every one of your motions going forward, like you did this morning. I'm sure you engaged the public and did the same level of capacity that you're expecting what I did. And I applaud you for asking me that. And I look forward to every other member of council, when they move motions, to do similar to what I'm doing on this motion. If there's something more you think I should do, I'd be willing to do. And I'd ask you what, hopefully you brought this out to the public. Again, I think that stormwater management and the environment is something that the public certainly cares about. We received correspondence to that effect in this council meeting that qualifies that. We have an environmental policy internally. We have a letter from Calvin Kwan, our Commissioner of Planning today, talking about that. So I would say that there's been a numerous amount of consultation in my view, and I believe that many people are talking about the environment and climate change. I think it's important to them. So I think they're very active. That's my position. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Councilor Munch. Councilor Barrows, your time may be coming up soon, but thank you for the question. I understand there are also other members would like to offer comments, remarks, or questions in the first round. So, Mr. Kirk, is Councilor Barrows still have time for him to continue? Mr. Kirk.
Thank you. There is still a minute and 12 seconds left on the clock.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to double check, make sure that everybody get their fair share of that 5 minutes. So Councilor Barrows.
Through the clerk to Mr. Kwan, when you
You
wrote
mean
this
through the chair?
report, through the chair to Mr. Kwan, why didn't you just take Councillor Munch's motion from January, insert it into your staff report, and tell us to adopt it if it's such good public policy?
Okay, Commissioner Kwong, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the direction that staff took from the motion of council was that we were to report back with information regarding all of the detail in that report and provide an overview of the systems that the city currently has in place and some of our professional opinions on the efficacy of the various approaches that the city takes in terms of stormwater management control.
Thank you, Commissioner Kwong. Councilor Barrows.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor De Paula, we have two different motions here. What has changed from the January motion to the motion of this afternoon that was not distributed to the public?
Before Deputy Mayor answer, I do have requests to speak, but I think we deal with that scenario before. Councilor Munch, the question is directed to Deputy Mayor De Paula. So I'm going to, subject to Councilor De Paula, unless you want to pass it on to someone else to speak about it. And Deputy Mayor De Paula, the question is directed to you.
Yeah. I think what we have now is an excerpt from that original motion, actionable items and an implementable version where all parties are protected. In the wording, in the preamble of the actionable item, where it states that hopefully our staff will, or a direction to our staff that they, subject to their political, professional considerations, that they implement the spirit of the foregoing, and it's been distilled and limited and processed, and I believe quite extensively been a collaborative and consultative process with the public.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor De Paula.
Didn't answer the question, but we'll try again. Through the clerk to Mr. Kwan. Mr. Kwan, do you understand this motion to be take what you want from it, leave what you don't want from it, but in the spirit generally try to help out with stormwater?
Councilor Barrows, I believe that you are intending to through the chair, because the second time that you mentioned about through the clerk, which is not the procedure that as we know it. So through the chair, Commissioner.
Point of order.
Yes, point of order.
Procedural.
So the motion in front of us is a
Yes, Councilor
motion.
Munch, sorry.
The motion in front of us is a motion by
But the
a
public
member.
hasn't seen.
Councilor Barrows, please do not interject while Councilor Munch is given the floor.
So the motion in front of us is written by.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. Sometimes I just get excited. My apologies.
Understood. Apology accepted. Thank you.
So the motion in front of us is written by a member of council directing an approach by council to staff. It's not I've read the staff report, as I'm sure many, if not all of you have. And from that staff report and from the initial January 27th report, which had 17 recommendations, staff came back, as per the Commissioner of Planning suggestion, that they came back with a report, and this motion was an amalgamation from what staff wrote to where the initial motion was after the consultation. So this is a council-driven motion to staff, not the other way around. So if you would like to know what the intent or what it happened with the motion, as the writer, I'd be more than happy to answer any and all your questions.
Thank you, Councilor Munch. But I think that Councilor Barrows asked a question.
How is that a
basic-
procedural? He's just interrupting me.
Well, Councilor Barrows, I was just about to give a reaction to what Councilor Munch saying. I was about to say that I do not hear anything particularly that raised that is, I would say, really constitute point for order. So, Councilor Barrows, I'm directing your question through the chair to Commissioner Kwong, but I appreciate that Councilor Munch tried to give the context, but not really a point of order at this point in time. Commissioner Kwong, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I understand the question correctly, as I mentioned earlier, the staff report was intended to address or identify the systems that we have in place for stormwater management control. One of the things here is to deal specifically with pavers, and the proposed motion going forward deals with the pavers in a way which gives is more or less consistent with the best practices that staff already exercise in looking at pavers as a possible solution or technique for stormwater control. However, if council's wish is to impose the imposition of pavers as a standard across the board, that is, and that's the will of council, then staff would make all efforts to implement those that direction. But certainly, my comments earlier about industry consultation would still be strongly recommended.
Thank you very much. We do hear the word consultation, Commissioner. Councilor Barrows, within the remaining time of your first round, is there any further remarks or questions you have?
Through the chair to Councillor Munch, can you explain in great detail item number 2, requiring all permits for residential driveways?
Councilor Munch.
Yeah, so residential driveways have two components, as I prefer to call it. One is the current residential system of driveways, and the other is new builds of residential driveways. The driveway systems, instead of having the water on driveways that are non-permeable, I would like driveway systems, and I'd like council to consider to force driveway systems to be permeable. And I left that with the definition of permeable in my motion that was in line with the legal definition of permeable from industry standards, from AMO, and from FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities. As was outlined, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities have given and encouraged municipalities for over a year now, as I'm sure Councillor Chan is well aware, to move forwards with this, and the language that's in there is consistent with where their direction is. So the residential driveways, as they get expanded and as they get developed, are not to offload water systems or not supposed to offload water to our systems unabated. So this is an opportunity for us to put a green-friendly product that's durable, as outlined in my report. You'll see outlines of numerous examples and of areas, as well as my initial January, I gave staff numerous examples across North America, and I'm sure they did more studies as well that may or may not have been in the report. My motion here today showcases all of those examples as to how it's done in other municipalities, how it's engaged by AMO and FCM, and why it should be engaged in our area starting January 1, 2022, because it's just the right thing to do. And it's a great opportunity for us to do something in the best interest of our environmental process going forward.
Thank you, Councilor Munch. And Mr. Clerk, remind me, I believe Councilor Bell still has the floor, correct?
Yes, and there's 19 seconds left on the clock.
Yes, Councilor Barrows, 19 seconds to go.
Through the chair to Mr. Kwan, why hasn't staff already mandated the use of permeable pavers in every use as described by Mr. Munch?
So through the chair to Commissioner Kwan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to reinforce the report, the way it was structured, we've identified that pavers are one component of a solution in a very complex system of stormwater management controls. Typically, we leave it up to the applicant to determine what is the best technique for the development, whether it be a ground-related, subdivisions, or high-rise. We would then evaluate that against the performance standards imposed by the city and look to find the best possible solution. As I also identified in the report, pavers are one of the LID techniques available. And if they were to use pavers, we would typically give them credits under our interim growth management strategy or for climate change benefits. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Kwan. Now, I stand to be corrected by Mr. Kirk. I believe that we might have used up the 19 seconds that Councilor Barrow has. If not, please let me know, Mr. Kirk.
Thank you. There's still 9 seconds left on the clock.
Still 9 seconds. Very good. Councilor Barrows is very using the time very efficiently. Councilor Barrows, you still have 9 seconds.
At first blush, this motion seems to be a no-brainer. However, with the amount of concerns that staff have raised, I don't think we should proceed further at this point in time. I'll speak again on the second round.
Thank you, Councilor Barrows. I do have a speakers list, and Councilor West, you have made it known you want to speak in the first round.
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr. Chair.
West.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to say that, I think the motion before us and the intent of the motion to do best for the environment is definitely one that everybody, I suspect, can support. I certainly can. And I thank Councillor Munch for that. And I guess, in some respects, I'm actually very thankful that this has come up, because this is one of the most comprehensive staff reports I've ever read, ever. I mean, it's 23 pages. It's like a textbook on stormwater management. And I believe, regardless of the outcome, this is going to be a good resource for people to understand the complexity. And frankly, anybody that knows anything about ecology and the natural environment will know that so many things are, complex and they're systems based. The problem that I have with this, and I've had this from the very beginning, and I think it's clearly outlined in the staff report in so many places, is that this is kind of like saying I have a favorite part of a machine, right? It's not the part that's the thing. The part's important, but the part isn't the thing that makes the machine work. It's only a part of it. And this is like permeable pavers to me. And again, it's reflected in the staff report in a number of places. Permeable pavers are a good idea. There's no question about it. They're here to stay. I suspect that the technology will even get better over time. But even when they become the very best that they can be as a particular product, they're still only one part of the solution. And in the staff report, there were a number of examples where permeable pavers would be of no value whatsoever. And now, I mean, some situations they will be of great value. But the thing that I'm getting from the staff report, and it's hard to summarize 23 pages in 5 minutes, but the thing that I'm getting from the staff report is that the staff is quite aware and is doing a lot of the things that we're trying to get to as a destination with regard to a sustainable environment, with regard to the goals of the community energy and emissions plan that we've just put out, and all of the other. Oh man, I hope this isn't just an opportunity to disagree.
Okay, there's a point of order.
So, thank you.
The point of order is, Councilor Munch.
I would request that the discussion is about the motion, not anything outside the motion. So there's been some discussion. I'll let it go for a little bit, but we should be discussing the motion, nothing beyond that. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's
Councillor
awfully rich-
West.
That's awfully rich from Councillor Munch. He's going to let it go. Councillor Chan,
Councillor Barrows,
you should throw him out at this point.
Councillor Barrows, please do not interrupt. Consider this a first warning. Councillor West, please.
Thank you. So where was I? So I guess the thing is, the spirit of what I think is trying to be accomplished here makes sense. I mean, there is a whole host of different things that the staff is doing right now and will, I'm sure, continue to do that will improve constantly our ability to deal with higher rainfall events, which, you know, in some degree is due to the effects of climate change. They've said that in a number of different places. So I just think that the unfortunate reality in my mind is that this motion, it's favoring one particular product to deal with the greater problem, rather than saying the problem of dealing with storm events has to be taken care in a systems approach and is holistically, effectively, cost effectively, and with all stakeholders involved as possible. And I think that approach is what staff has done in the past. I would fully expect them to continue to do it in the past. I mean, we are updating our environment strategy, we're updating our official plan, we're updating our comprehensive zoning bylaw, all happening right now. And I guarantee that every single one of those reviews will deal in some ways with the effects of climate change, including this. So I think the thing is, while I do appreciate, as I mentioned at the beginning, the great work that staff's done across different departments, by the way, in putting together this extremely comprehensive staff report, I think the staff report really outlines the way forward. And as much as I appreciate Councillor Munch's motion and his passion and bringing this forward and allowing us to have this discussion on council, I think that the solution here is to I don't think that this motion is getting us, Councillor Munch's motion, with all due respect, is getting us any further than we should be. But I think that the staff report itself and the directions that it's clarified for both the public and myself, I'll speak for myself, and the rest of council, is the thing that it will do us well over time. I think Richmond Hill does a good job with regard to the climate change mitigation and so on. We have done some good things in the last little while. Again, those things are outlined in the staff report. We will continue to do good things and do the best that we can. But I think that this particular motion, unfortunately, in my view, cherry picks one thing, one tool in the toolbox over all the other tools. And it's a systems approach that we really need. I have no doubt in my mind that staff will be looking to use permeable pavers whenever they're appropriate. And I would encourage them to do so, but I don't think this motion necessarily serves us well. I've got 4 seconds over. My apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. I would need the clerk's assistance to ensuring there's no other members want to speak in the first round. Regional Councillor Peretti, please, this is your first round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just enlarge my screen so I can see your smiling faces. I think anything that can help us with stormwater runoff is really good. I mean, this is a motion that's 5 or 6 pages. I've read it now 4 or 5 times. I still don't think I've absorbed everything 100%. And so I'm a little surprised that, it would come at, such a last minute without public consultation and without us even having time to digest it properly. It's a non-starter for me when we go to the therefore be it further resolved, point number 2. I can't support a motion that requires someone to purchase a certain product to expand their driveway. I know something that's better than permeable pavers, but nobody asked me my opinion.
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor Munch, your point of order is?
The motion doesn't say that.
Okay, fair enough. Councillor Peretti.
The motion doesn't say
I do
what?
think the motion does not say this is the only product.
I didn't
If I
say,
understand it correctly.
I didn't say it was. It's saying to require all permits for residential driveways to utilize permeable paver, permeable pavement, and its related systems to be utilized to receive a driveway expansion starting in January 2022.
Okay,
So number two, let me state it again, states that you're going to require people who want to expand their driveways to use this. I'm telling you, there are better products than this product to control. So why wouldn't I move an amendment to make it mandatory to use better products? But I digress. Let me ask a few questions. So the first question I have is of the mover. Where is the study that tells me, you know, if the permeable pavers have water traveling through the paver, absorbing into the subsurface underneath, my question to you is, it's porous. Is that correct? Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mover. Is it a porous
I think
material?
the question is direct to Councillor Munch. Councillor Munch.
Sure, whoever.
So the answer to your question is there's asphalt, there's concrete, there's interlocking brick. Each company has its own system. And
No, that's not the question. That's not the question.
You have to let me answer, sir.
No, I don't love to let you answer. It's my time. I asked a simple question. It's porous because it allows the water to filter through it, correct?
No.
No.
Councillor Munch.
So again, if I may finish answering your
No, it's
question.
okay. It's okay. I have no
Well,
questions.
again, you can't, you asked
I have
a
no
question.
question.
You don't like the answer.
No, you didn't
Is
give
it
me an
answer?
answer.
Regional Councillor Pirelli,
Yes,
with all due respect, you did ask a question.
Yeah, I
Please let
withdraw the
Councillor Munch
question.
respond to it.
I withdraw the question. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
okay, that's fine. So
Thank
no
you.
need for answer the question, Councillor Munch.
Thank
Please
you.
continue, Regional Councillor
Thank you.
Pirelli.
Thank you. I've seen this paver. Councillor Munch presented it to me. Now, I hope he was joking when he said that he was a partner in the company. So, because if that's the case, then we have a serious issue. So,
Point of order.
now,
Hold on, point of order.
that's not a point of order. That's.
Hold on.
You just
made an
hold on a
accusation,
minute,
sir.
hold on a minute.
Now,
Councillor
being
Munch,
said-
Regional Councillor Pirelli.
oh, yes.
Councillor Munch, are you raising a point of order? And let's stick
Mr.
to the point of order. What's your point of order, Councillor Munch?
Councillor
And thank you for
Pirelli-
cooperation, Regional Councillor Pirelli. Councillor Munch.
Councillor Pirelli, and before that in writing, Councillor Barros, made an equal kind of direction. There is, let's be clear, members of council should be
Wait,
treated.
what's
with
the point of order?
I'm answering, please, sir.
What did I do procedurally?
Yeah, Regional
Correct?
Councillor Pirelli,
Sir.
let the point of order, Councillor, explain. If it's
Well,
not.
there has to be a
I
point of
rule-
order first. That's not
No,
a
I
point
have
of
to
order.
listen to that first, Regional Councillor Pirelli.
He wants to have a debate.
No, we're not debating. I'm trying to listen to
Well, then
what
there's no
his
point
point
of
of order
order.
is. Please allow me or allow
All right,
all of
go
us to
ahead.
hear his point
What's
of
your
order.
point
If
of
it's not,
order?
I will order our order. Please
Go
be
ahead.
patient.
Go ahead.
Councillor Munch, get to the point. What's your point of order?
Sir, you just, as did another member of council, make an insinuation that there was some financial benefit or that someone had an involvement in that. If that was the case, you asked about was somebody involved with the company. The answer is there would have been a pecuniary interest, as I would expect every member of council.
I did not
I have
ask that
zero, I have
question.
zero interest or zero involvement. with
I
any
did
of the-
not ask that
Okay.
question.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Councillor Munch, I think I hear you. And I think it's also fair that to say that I believe Regional Councillor Pereira mentioned it. I do not honestly hear that he's implying any pecuniary interest. So I don't think it's particularly in this case. I have to say that I have to rule that Regional Councillor Pereira still has his forum.
Thank you.
Regional Councillor
Sir,
Pereira.
I would ask for an apology. He impugned me in the public and directly. And I'm asking for an apology because the direction of making any insinuation about any involvement in any other capacity, other than the best interests of what we're trying to do as a municipality, and saying that I would have any financial or in management engagement is categorically false. And I'm asking for an apology, please. Thank you.
I hear you, Councilor Munch. Integrity of all of us as elected official important. Let me ask very clearly, Regional Councilor Pirelli, are you inferring or implying a member of the council has a financial interest or pecuniary interest with the manufacturer of this product?
Mr. Chairman, if we go back to the tape, you'll hear what I said. I said, when Councilor Munch presented me with this product, he told me at that time that he was a partner in the company.
Absolutely not true, sir.
Okay.
100% not true. 100% not true.
Don't
I
interrupt,
asked for an
please.
apology. 100% not true.
Don't act. Don't.
Okay.
Okay, so
Now-
you were lying to me then. It's okay. But
Okay.
I'm glad you clarified it, but that's what you told me.
Okay.
That's what you told
Mr.
me.
Mr. Pirelli, I'm not willing to talk, but I do
But
know
why-
what some of the comments you made.
But
I'm not
why-
going there.
Why
I
are
ask
Okay.
you,
you
please,
interrupting me?
no pecuniary interest has ever been involved in anything I've ever done, nor here. And I find it,
Why are you
again,
interrupting
I'm
me?
asking for an apology.
Mr. Chairman,
because
why are
you've
you
once
allowing
again
Gentlemen,
impugned me.
Gentlemen, I understand why Councilor Munch was trying to
Hold on, Mr.
have
Chairman.
your
Mr.
time.
Chairman, it's my
but-
turn to speak.
But
It's my
Regional
turn to
Councilor
speak.
Pirelli,
Chairman.
may I ask you
My
to
turn to
focus on the
speak.
content?
You let
on
him
the
interrupt
content
me,
of the
now you're
motion?
interrupting me. You let him interrupt me, now you're interrupting me. Come
I'm
on.
just saying that
Stop.
concentrate on the
This is-
content of the motion.
I don't know what everybody's getting all excited about. Counselor Munch told me one thing back then. Today he's telling me something different. Now, I take him at his word today that what he told me before was not true, and today is the truth. But when you hear conflicting, one of them has to be true, one of them has to be false. So if today he's saying publicly for the record that he has no partnership interest in that company, I believe him.
And you should offer me an apology, sir, because I didn't.
No, because that's what you told me, Tom. Now, you
Okay.
may have been bragging or joking, but that's what you said, sir. I apologize for
Nonsense.
telling
No,
the truth.
Gentlemen, I have to
Nonsense,
jump in
sir.
here because we are getting really out of what we're discussing about the content
Well,
of this motion.
Mr. Chairman,
What had
you-
happened, whether
if you
between
allow him to
any member of
interrupt
council,
me, this is what's
outside
going to
public eye,
happen.
are not for discussion here. So Regional Councilor Pirelli, may I respectfully ask that you focus on what's being known facts in front of all of us, not something between you and any member of the public or any member of our fellow councillors that we are not aware of. If you don't mind, please focus on the content on this particular motion, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
I'm trying to
Yeah.
direct it to a productive meeting.
you're absolutely right. And if I wasn't interrupted, we wouldn't be having this discussion. So look, I mean, I tried to have this discussion with Councilor Munch when he presented me with this paver. And at first blush, it looks like a very good product. But why can't I expand my driveway with turf? Why can't I expand it with gravel?
Sir, if I may. you're directing it to
I'm
me,
not
that's-
asking you, Councilor
Sorry.
Munch.
So who are you directing it to
Councillor
then,
Munch,
sir?
yes.
I'm not asking any questions.
Councillor Munch, please, Mr. Clerk, would you please make sure there's only one speaker's phone on at this point in time, which is
Thank you. Mr.
Regional
Chairman.
Council Pirelli and my
Thank
microphone as the chair. Thank you.
Oh, my Lord.
We need to have a proper
I
conduct of the
haven't been
meeting.
able to say 10 seconds worth of words without being interrupted. I certainly hope I have 4 minutes and 50 seconds still on the clock.
Please continue.
Thank you. I read here in the therefore be it resolved. And I don't understand why anybody would agree that a 100-year storm has 98 millimeters of water within a 24-hour period. I mean, we would accept this as a fact. This is not a fact. Number two, the permeable product or system is able to absorb 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. Gravel can do a lot more than that. And it'll go right into the earth. Right? It'll do 6, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. Who knows how much inches it'll do. So then the permeable product system is able to absorb 4 millimeters of rain per square foot. I'm a little confused. Hold on a second. The permeable product or system is able to absorb 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period and 4 millimeters of rain per square foot. Well, we go from millimeters to inches back to millimeters. That's very confusing. The permeable paver product can manage a minimum of 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period from all side surfaces through infiltration. Now that's where we get fascinating. What's that?
So, sorry, go on. Please continue.
What was that? I heard somebody say something.
1 minute.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, here's the problem with the permeable pavers. They're touted as the great salvation. I don't buy it because the way that the permeable pavers are created, and any scientist will tell you this, it's because they're porous. Pores get filled. They don't discriminate between water and dirt and residue and contaminants. And once they get filled, they're clogged. And once they get clogged, you're done. It no longer works the way it was designed. The best it can do is the first time it filters, because ladies and gentlemen, water contains particles. As clear and as beautiful that the water in this cup looks like, and we can see through it, it contains particulate. And when the particulate goes through a filter system, it clogs the pavers. I can't support pavers when they're going to get clogged. Gravel's the way to go.
Point of order.
As Deputy Mayor DiPaolo, your point of order is?
Yeah, just the speaker's time has elapsed. It was.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that Mr. Kirk, you confirmed that?
Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay, so Regional Council Pirelli, you shouldn't have the option to come back for second round, but we have to all comply with our procedural bylaw, and I appreciate you respecting that. And I ask that any other member, I know that you want to speak, Councilor Munch, but I want to see if any other members who haven't spoken yet in the first round. Anyone, is it Councilor Civilis? Is that what you, looks like you want to raise your hand? No? Okay. So I'm calling again. Any member of council want to speak for the first time? No? Now I go to second round and Councilor Munch. Councilor Munch, you raised your hand before.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll request to speak.
So just for clarification of everyone, if a product like grass is permeating water, that would classify as a permeable product. I don't have any attachment to grass products. This is what this motion is and where it goes through great lengths. And this is in line with what we did in January. And we had a great discussion and I did engage others. Please keep in mind that some products absorb, some don't. Again, as it relates to the definitions as are outlined, those are industry definitions of what permeable and non-permeable are. Also, as it relates to the 100-year storm requirement, that is what the level is that when they're talking about how much water can be infiltrated within a 24-hour period, that's where the definition of the permeable is done at 98 millimeters. In order to be qualified as a permeable product or system, this is the minimum criteria of how it's classified. So when we're saying a bylaw or putting it forward, we're saying in order to make sure that we have a permeable product or system, this is the minimum criteria. If it's more, fantastic. Obviously, the 100-year storm is the minimum criteria, and that is outlined by that is the way the definition is when you're looking at the 100-year storm. You can Google it, very common knowledge. This is right off of where it is at. So these products are, when they're talking about permeable, are they able to go equal to or beyond the system? And as we were talking about climate change, we want to make sure that we're managing our water and water systems. soil, for example, can be saturated. And when it becomes saturated, it would obviously not be able to, if it's like a clay, for example, the water would build up. Hence the reason why it's important to have a system or a product in place that can help manage that, not simply channel it away elsewhere. There are different systems in the market. We have, like I said, at the Copic Church, for example, they have one type of system. I'm not going to go into the definitions. We've received a letter to that effect in our delegated documents. We had another supplier come forward who has a different system. Both are considered permeable. We have yet concrete and asphalt industry, assuming they meet the permeable definitions, then we can go from there. And that's why we've asked in the motion, outside the definitions, we're asking from going forward that residential doesn't offload water onto our overburdened systems, of which are unfunded and which we have a substantial liability, unfunded liability for that. And also we're trying to deal with, as driveways are being widened through not just new product, but elsewhere, this is an opportunity for us to manage that outflow of water. And as has been outlined in many of the installations, including Richmond Hill, the Botanical Gardens, the Waterfront Toronto, many outlines throughout Canada, these type of systems are proven and are very documented. Another reason why you use permeable nature, as Mr. Pirelli documented, is when there's oil and other contaminants that are going in there, the various methods of these permeable are able to decipher that, and they help reduce the amount of contaminants that go into our water stream and actually protect the environment further, which is why municipalities like Sarnia, which is widely known as the capital of Ontario for chemicals, have now made it a standard for this well after. It's interesting that Ottawa, 2 weeks after we moved the initial information in January, moved forwards. And in fact, I was in Ottawa in July, and I engaged the members of council and staff on this, where they've made it wide stream. So all I'm asking here is that, can our municipality simply put this type of product moving forwards? We're not there yet. As further to Councillor West's statement, saying this is one opportunity in our arsenal to handle stormwater management. To handle stormwater management. This is right now, we don't have a standard, as this was written in 1984. This upgrades our standard, and as it's supposed to be put in as out in the staff report, we should be paying this as part of our official plan moving forwards. I think that once again, that the environment and looking after stormwater management, this motion says requiring residential driveways to become permeable. And then furthermore, to give considerations for pathways and other systems as outlined in the staff report and in our January. Fourth, to give consideration and then land coverage and compensation in line with where staff are at. Fifth, to keep council up to date on permeable products and systems, because as outlined in some of the councillors now, maybe some of you aren't as engaged as I care about this stormwater management and environment and climate change. I look at areas of which we can work collectively. And as Richmond Hill has got the Oak Ridges Marine as outlined in the motion, which was in line with the January. We're trying to move this thing forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll go back to a third round. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Munch, just to be absolutely correct, there's no third round, but as the mover of the motion, you'll be given 3 minutes at the end. I do, in this second round, I do, thank you. I got your note, Regional Councillor Pirelli. But before you, I have Deputy Mayor DePaula want to speak at the second round. Deputy Mayor DePaula.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. I mean, the motion's in line with some recommendations coming out of FCM and AMO. Some municipalities are choosing to go this way. And if councillors choose to do so, they can support the motion. And, if they don't, they can voice their opinion not to do so, but it shouldn't be any filibustering. As a seconder, of course, I support it, and we'll leave it at that.
Thank you. On your note of leaving at that, but we do have another speaker in the second round, Regional Councillor Pirelli. Regional Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had to wait for the clerk to unmute me. Thank you for the opportunity again. Let me read it again, because Councillor Munch stated that he's not requiring the permits for residential driveways to have pavers. He says products. Well, I'll read it to you again. To require all permits for residential driveways to utilize permeable paver, permeable pavement and its related systems. That does not include grass. Grass is not a paver. Rocks are not pavers. Pavers, look up the definition, they're stones. Look, Councillor Munch, if you rewind the tape, he did finally answer my question. My question was, what happens if the pores get clogged? And he said something to the effect that what's really great about this product, that it keeps out the contaminants from the water system. Where do those contaminants go? They fill the pores. When the pores are filled, the stone doesn't work the way it was designed. Now what? You have to replace it? I caution people that if we're going to make it mandatory for residents to put these stones in place, they can be clogged in, I say, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, depending on the conditions. There's construction in the area, oil or other contaminants. And then the stone becomes like a regular stone. And of course, the cost is an exorbitant cost by comparison to a regular paver. So at the end of the day, don't be fooled. It says right here to require, if we support this motion, it says to require. Require means mandatory. All permits for residential driveways, permeable paver. Now, in the spirit of going along to get along, I would move an amendment. Here's my amendment, Mr. Chairman. That if we require all permits for residential driveways to use permeable pavers, that the manufacturer of the product put up a letter of credit, an LC, for $5 million and a guarantee that the product will not clog and will perform as intended for a minimum of 10 years. Permeable pavers last more than 10 years, but I'm just going to ask for 10 years. Guarantee that the product will work as designed with all the stats that we have on the first page of the therefore be it further resolved, that they will absorb 4 inches of water, 4 millimeters per square foot, et cetera, et cetera. If the companies that provide the stone will give us that guarantee and put their money where their mouth is, I'm all in for this motion. That's my amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Regional Council Pereira. It says seconder for this amendment. It says seconder for this amendment. Now, Mr. Clerk, you might help me to see if members in the council chamber might want to second this. So far on the screen, I do not see anyone who remotely attending the meeting saying they will second it.
I have not seen any seconder in the chamber that I can draw your attention to, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So
well, thank you, Mr.
Regional
Chairman.
councilors still have the time?
Yes, thank you. In the absence of a seconder to my motion, the lack of a seconder speaks volumes, Mr. Chairman. What it says to me is that even with a guarantee from a manufacturer and a letter of credit, they don't believe that these permeable pavers are actually hold up to the claims that are being made. Let's make it very simple. I will not support this for the fact that I will not compel the residents of Richmond Hill or anyone else to have a driveway made of permeable pavers that I don't think stand up to all the claims that they make. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to make remarks, Regional Council Peretti. I believe that Council Barrows want also to speak on the second round. Is that right, Mr. Clerk?
The clerk says so. Yeah.
Okay, Council Barrows.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I have a referral. I would like
Need a
to.
motion.
Sorry?
Sorry, I don't mean to interject.
Okay. I have a referral. I'd like to refer the member's motion to staff for information. Had a lot of great discussion here. They've received a lot of comments. It'd be referred to staff and that staff report back if bylaw amendments are necessary. A lot of great material here. Staff haven't had the opportunity, as they've all said, to really look it over and really, qualify it in the whole bit. So let's send it to staff and let staff decide if and when they need to come back, if there's any changes from this great body of work that we've given to them. I know there's a lot of different studies going on, and this could be circulated to some of those staff that may help inform some of our future policies. I just don't think it's a good idea for us right now in the middle of so many different bodies of work that's going on to insert ourselves and say, nope, fast forward, we know exactly how it needs to be done with the paver. We've decided on the definition of permeable, done. It kind of second guesses all the processes we've got in place right now.
Thank you, Councilor Barros. Seconded for referral motion. Regional Councilor Pirelli second the referral motion. Any member want to speak on it? Yes, Regional Councilor Pirelli is the seconder of the referral motion. Please go ahead. Regional Councilor Pirelli.
His
you're not going to
microphone is
Okay.
His microphone is muted.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Pirelli, if you could,
Mr. Clerk,
you
please.
could write it on paper and then put it up, perhaps. We could just read it.
Thank you. Thank you for trying to help, Councilor Barros. Mr. Clerk, please allow unmute the microphone of Regional Councilor Pirelli.
Apologize, Mr. Chair. We're actually having just a little technical difficulty trying to unmute the microphones.
Okay, well.
Just give us just 1 second, please.
Okay, thank you for everybody's patience, indulgence. Technical systems sometimes do have its challenges.
As undemocratic as it may sound, why don't we just call the vote and see where it lands?
Thank you for trying to help Councilor Barros, but I think Mr. Clerk is trying to unmute Regional Councilor Pirelli's microphone. Looks like you're always there, so please speak.
Our sincere apologies.
Thank you. Thank you. It's difficult to communicate when you can't speak. Interesting subject. Well, we've had some great discussion about this, and I tried to help along, but I couldn't get a seconder for my motion. So this is the only thing that makes any sense. Let's refer it back to staff. It was thrust upon us very late. It's 5 pages of whereases and therefores. I mean, it's really, really lengthy. The public didn't really have any opportunity today. They've had an opportunity in the past, but they'd have an opportunity today to speak to this. And it's a very detailed motion. It's very complex. And it's really, with the exception of number 2, it's all really a bunch of suggestions, which I could support. I mean, if the mover and the seconder were to remove, for example, more or less everything on everything in number 1 and number 2, I could probably support 3, 4, and 5, which is really the spirit and intent of it. Councilor Barros is very wise in what he said. We need to refer this back to staff. so that staff can decide, look into some of the things that were said here today. For example, can this paver actually absorb 4 inches of water? How long does it absorb it for? We don't want to rush into these things. Can you imagine saying to a bunch of residents, you have to use this paver or a paver system? And then it turns out 6 months later that the water is not absorbing, it's flowing off and it's going into the sewers. And they spent all this extra money to put this system in. I mean, no, we can't do that to our residents. It's just not possible. And then it brings a lot of questions that I want staff to consider when we refer it back to them. And what I would like staff to consider is this: what does it really mean when we expand the driveway, a driveway expansion? So let's use an example. They have to do some repair on the municipal part of the driveway. It's 2 car lengths wide and it's 4 feet deep. And they have a beautiful, asphalt driveway. Now, do they have to replace that with these pavers and the system? Or does that not qualify for that? There's a lot of questions here. And if I've learned anything while I've been on council, I've learned that when there are more questions than answers, we really need to go back to the drawing board. And that's why I'm happy to second this referral motion back to staff. And hopefully staff can answer some of those questions and get the opportunity they didn't have before today, which is really go through this line by line. This is a comprehensive document. And
Point of information.
Yes, Councilor Barrows.
Point of information is to receive clarification on the motion that's on the floor. And I want to be clear that my referral motion is referring this back to staff with no direction that staff must report back to us unless they feel it necessary when they're updating a bylaw or a policy. Just so we're clear on the motion on the floor.
Thank you.
That's not a point of order.
No, it's not a point of order.
You're correct. It was a point of information.
I just want to see if you're paying attention.
Point of order, that's not right.
Allow me to interject here, but I think it's important that for Mr. Kirk to capture that the wordings of the mover of the particular referral motion to which Regional Council Pereira now you're seconding. So I think it's important. So Mr. Kirk, perhaps I would let Regional Council Pereira to continue, but in the meantime, please show or read the referral motion to us after Regional Council Pereira finishes before I move on to another member of council.
Well, Mr.
So Regional
Chairman,
Council Pereira.
So Mr. Chairman, because that wasn't a point of order, he should get 1 strike.
No, that was a point of information to be absolutely
Oh,
correct.
point of information, no strikes for that.
And I think it's fair for the mover to be clarifying what his motion is
That
about.
makes sense, yeah. Well, I was perfectly clear on the mover's motion. I never suggested that staff need to report back to us. What I said was staff should consider all of the questions that were asked here today and any other questions that pop up when they're reading this lengthy 5-page document. I mean, I think Councillor Munch holds the record for the longest motions ever seen in the council chambers. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that it's complicated. And when it's complicated, staff need to spend more time to absorb it. And I encourage staff to reach out to Councillor Munch on a daily basis if necessary, and to get clarification for, the whereases. 1 minute. Whereases and the therefores and further therefores, and get clarification before they make the determination whether they need to revisit this in the future to change any bylaws as Councillor Barros's motion. And Councillor Barros, you knew or ought to have known that I knew exactly what you were talking about. So you should apologize for having to interject that comment. But I'll leave it up to you, sir. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you for your comments, Regional Council Peretti. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to ask the clerk to please either read out the referral motion in front of us, which has been moved by Councilor Barrows and seconded by Regional Council Peretti, before we go on, so that everybody's clear what's in front of us. Would you mind, Mr. Clerk, to read it out? Because some of us remotely might not be able to see that big print in front of our small screen.
Thank you. Sure. To you, Mr. Chair. The motion to refer reads as follows: that the motion of Councillor Munch, seconded by Acting Mayor DePaula, be referred to staff with no requirement to report back unless other proposed amendments to other city policies and bylaws would, in the opinion of staff, benefit from the inclusion of permeable pavers and permeable systems.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. I have to ask Councilor Barrows, as the mover referral motion, does the wording that just read by the clerk accurately reflect what your motion? Councilor Barrows, you are the mover.
It does, and it's in line with the report. And
Point
it's in
of
line.
information.
It's in line from the comments from the Commissioner of Planning that they're already integrating many of these uses into current policies and pieces. So I'm very happy. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor, there's a Regional Council Peretti of a point of information. Sorry, I want Councillor Barrows to finish off as the mover of the referral motion to make sure that is exactly accurately reflects what he has in mind. You are the second, Regional Council Peretti. So you have something to add or you want to say?
Yeah, what I want to say, Mr. Chairman, is that unfortunately, this motion does not reflect the reality. At this time, you, sir, are the acting mayor.
So are you suggesting you're withdrawing your?
No,
I don't
no,
want to put words in your mouth.
I want a point
You're
of
the second.
clarification. The motion, the referral motion states that it's acting Mayor DePaula, but you, sir, are the acting mayor right now.
At this point in time for this meeting, yes.
Yeah, so it's at this point in time that we're making the vote. So I think that the record should accurately reflect the motion. So maybe it should say regional and local councillor DePaula to be accurate, because he's not the acting mayor at this moment.
Okay, I would say that I'm now assuming the chair as the acting mayor, but nonetheless, Deputy Mayor Joe DePaula is still the acting mayor. So if the wording is such that, Mr. Clerk, you can confirm that, subject to whether in fact Deputy Mayor DePaula have any issue with his changes to Councillor Munch and Deputy Mayor DePaula, I believe that would really fits into the circumstances we are in now.
I don't know where this notion ever came up that Councillor Chan is the acting mayor. He's been asked to chair the meeting. If acting Mayor DePaula had passed it over to me as a councillor, I would chair the meeting. But I'm answering the question for you. I would be chairing the meeting, but I wouldn't become by virtue the acting mayor.
Mr. Clerk, would you please?
You, sir, are not the acting mayor. You're the chair of the meeting. But I know that the procedural bylaw is difficult for many.
Continuing, I would have
Someone
to ask Mr.
Someone
Clerk
keeps saying my name.
to mute you. Mr. Clerk, so would you please revise the wording of referral motion?
Thank you. To you and through you, Mr. Chair. The way the procedure bylaw is structured and the way the role of acting mayor and deputy mayor is structured. During the vacancy, Deputy Mayor DePaula is the acting mayor of the city, and he retains that position at all times while this rule is in effect. And in my respectful opinion, should be referred to as the acting mayor, even in these motions. And that Councillor Chan, you as sort of the, I guess you could say the backup if the acting mayor was unable to act, but you would, during this period of time, be the acting mayor. But in this context alone, Councillor Barrows is right. You are merely the chair or the acting chair. So it's my respectful position that the motion actually should refer to Councillor Munch and Acting Mayor DePaula.
Thank you very much for your professional interpretation. Then I hope that everybody is clear with our professional city clerk explain. And I have no further issue. So is there any speaker? Regional Councilor Pirelli, you already spoke as the seconder. With your indulgence, I would like to see if any other member of council would like to speak.
I withdraw my second.
Before I come back to you. Is that okay?
I withdraw my second.
Oh, you withdraw your second. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So, thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Clerk, for reading out to clarify. So, Councilor Munch, you request to speak. Now, but before we go on, then it says, are you going to second the Councilor Barrow's motion? If not, let me ask one more time so that we'll be very clear on what you'll be speaking on, Councilor Munch. Is there any member of council would second the referral motion moved by Councilor Barrows? Mr. Clerk, I'm probably need your help because I believe the other two members, in addition to Councilor Barrows, are in the council chamber.
To you, Mr. Chair, I see no no member of council indicating that they second the referral motion within the chambers.
Fair enough. With this no seconder on the referral motion, we are turning back to the main motion in front of us. So Councilor Munch, you already spoke 2 times on the main motion. If you are saying that you want to wrap up before I call the vote on the main motion, please do. But you have already taken 2 opportunities to speak. Is that wrap up? Okay. Before that, I will ask any member of public member of the council having a chance to give comments or remarks on the main motion. Please do so now before I ask Councilor Munch to move for the main motion to wrap up. Seeing none, I would just want to say very briefly, it has been a very fruitful discussion. And in my humble view, I certainly appreciate where Councilor Munch is coming from. It certainly shows his thoroughness in terms of research a topic and getting involved in get to know the subject more. And thank you for the spirit and intent of that. Now, having said that, I also read very carefully the 22 pages of the staff report before the attachment or in addition to attachment. And, you know, in my 15 years on council, frankly, it's not really often we have staff report come back with that thoroughness. And I just want to say that my understanding of the report, the staff report itself, it does indicate that the permanent paver would be one of the consideration in the city's ongoing comprehensive zoning bylaw review. So I like to say that, in fact, the staff acknowledge there are different tools around in the market. And this would be, as suggested in Councilor Munch motion, would be something to be considered. And it's actually, I should stress the word, it's not may be considered, it actually will be considered. So it's affirmative already response from staff, they will include looking at this as an option in a comprehensive bylaw review. So I think that I took comfort that staff will be looking at that. The other one that I'm not going to get into it, but I do have a bit of concern is that we as a public body, there are expectations we will conduct our purchasing, our procurement in an open and transparent manner. And to that extent, I would have liked to have staff feedback to see, yes, this might be the best product in the world at this point in time, but what would be the kind of circumstance or rationale for supporting to solely retain this kind of product. So those, I just want to raise my issue and concern. And I do I want to thank staff for a very thorough report. We are not talking about this as part of the motion of Councillor Munch, but staff also have a great description about the credit as well as about the connection or between this particular product and climate change, particularly in reducing greenhouse gas emission. The wording is stated very clear in the staff report, need to be further investigated. So on that note, I have to say, notwithstanding its good intent, notwithstanding that the thoroughness of both Councillor Munch and our staff report, I am at this point in time unable to support the motion as it stands in front of us. So I'm prepared to call a vote. But before that, Councillor Munch.
I got 3-minute wrap up, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm coming to you. I know what I'm doing, Councillor Munch. I'm coming back to you for your 3-minute wrap up. Councillor Munch.
Thank you. So water is a really important topic. It's been, come January, it'll be 2 years since residents have been hit dozens of thousands of dollars in the hole because of stormwater management. Environment climate action is something that a lot of people in the public want, and I think they deserve some leadership. And I think our council has an opportunity with directly to say, we have a staff that says this is important. We have a public that says climate change and climate action is important. In front of us today, we have a motion that says, are we going to move forwards on climate action? Yes or no? Specifically to one topic and one topic only as it relates to a very complex topic as related. So for stormwater management and with the increasing, we missed 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years. Staff consultation for 2 years. We know a growing problem. We've had elections federally. This election is coming forward. Climate change is a serious thing, and I think we can manage it together. And I think there's an opportunity for this council that handles things on approvals for residential expansion. We've missed 2 construction seasons, and we continue to have it. So if there is a problem with stormwater management, which I still receive some questions about, they expect some action from members of council. And I will be always saying that I care about the environment and I'm moving forwards with legislation, and I've moved motions, and as pointed out by most people on staff, this is a comprehensive where because we brought it forward to the council. So I'm looking forward to saying that water is a serious problem. Here's a way in which we can manage a problem and do things responsibly and be in line with the market, because we're laggards today in Richmond Hill, laggards as per written by the suppliers and other people. Suppliers were not consulted. I'm sorry for that. I've tried my best. I'm sure hopefully other people have done it. Green roofs have been around for a long time. We're installing them. Now we're putting it on the ground. If we're requiring green roofs, why aren't we requiring other areas? We're doing solar roofs. We have a 2051 plan that's required.
1 minute.
We have a climate action committee. This motion simply says, really simply, that we want residential driveways that are being expanded to be permeable. If people don't want to be permeable and they want to offload water onto others, and this meets AODA compliance. So anybody that's in accessibility, this is an AODA compliant. We have FCM giving $360,000 per project to municipalities. FCM is doing that. I'm really looking forward to seeing how people vote on this. I am going to ask for a recorded vote. When we have FCM, AMO, municipalities, the residents looking for climate change action, and all we're asking for is, hey, let's participate in this. There's no costs here. This is a responsible approach. In fact, there's a cost for us not managing the climate and the climate change. And I'm going to say, I implore members of council to let's move forwards and address these issues. But if we prefer not to, no problem. All this is saying is, can we leave consideration and can we move
Thank you,
forward?
Mr. Councilor Munch. I have to ask you to finish.
Okay, I look forward to the vote. I ask for a recorded vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Recorded vote noted. Mr. Clerk, please proceed with the recorded vote as requested by the mover for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Voting on the motion moved by Councillor Munch, seconded by Acting Mayor DePaula. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
No.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli, please.
I believe you might have to unmute his microphone, Mr. Kirk.
Regional Local Councilor Crowley, can you hang up your voting sign? We'll try to solve this in a second. If you have your voting sign, I can, for the benefit of the public, read out what I'm appearing on the screen while they're trying to fix this. Regional Local Councilor Crowley, do you have your voting sign by chance? Yes, thank you. Thank you. For the benefit of the members of the public, Regional Local Councilor Pirelli is voting no.
No.
Thank you. Councilor Barros.
No.
Thank you. Councilor West.
No.
Thank you. Councilor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. Acting Mayor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. And Councilor Silovitz.
No.
Thank you. That motion fails to carry.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. We finished this agenda item. Subject to Acting Mayor DePaula wishes, I'm more than happy to pass on the chair back to you. Oh, sorry, Councilor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to move a motion that the staff report be received for information purposes.
Thank you. Any seconder for that? Councilor Munch, you raise your hand first. Does that mean you want a second? Yes, okay. Councilor Peretti, sorry that I believe according to my eyesight, I did spot Councilor Munch before you. So we do have a motion moved by Councilor Neal and seconded by Councilor Munch to accept the report for information only, which is actually the recommendation, I believe, of the staff report. Any speaker on that? If not, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? Looks like it's carried, Mr. Kirk. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I like, as I mentioned
I think
earlier,
that was carried.
Acting Mayor.
Sorry, if I may, that was carried unanimously, I believe, sir.
Yes, Mr. Kirk, maybe you can help me because
there was no, Mr. Point of order.
Okay, I hear a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I know you're new at this, but you never asked if there are any opposed.
My apology. My
That's okay.
apology. So yeah, I did ask for people to show whether they're supporting it, and thank you. Any member oppose the motion to receive the staff report for information? I don't see any unless Mr. Kirk told me otherwise. So, Mr. Kirk, would that meaning that motion was passed unanimously? Please help to confirm yes or no.
I will confirm for the benefit of the chair that none of the members in the chamber voted no. So yes, you may rule accordingly.
I'm happy for the record that the motion to receive the report from staff on this subject for information only had been received unanimously. 8-0. Thank you. So
motion to resume at 3:30.
Second.
Okay.
That's been seconded.
So-
All those in favor?
all those in favor? Anyone against?
That's
No.
passed.
Motion
Very good.
Looks like carried.
See you all at
unanimously.
3:30.
We see you all on 3:30, and I pass on the chair back to Acting Mayor DePaul then. Thank you for those members of public on the public live streaming. We'll be back at 3:30, about 20 minutes break. Thank you.
For the benefit of members of council, just before you sign off, we will, on this occasion, since it's a relatively brief 20-minute recess, we will try leave this meeting on and attempt to, so just don't log out, just turn off your screen and cameras. And when you come back, then we will